On Capitol Hill, a government shutdown averted for now. But Speaker Kevin McCarthy now faces a threat to his leadership. Fellow Republican and frequent critic Congressman Matt Gaetz says he'll seek to oust McCarthy for working with Democrats to avoid that shutdown. ABC's Mary Alice Parks is on Capitol Hill with more on the fallout.
Tonight, a government shutdown averted at the 11th hour, but only for 45 days.
The bill is passed.
As a last resort, Speaker Kevin McCarthy making an extraordinary pivot, relying on Democrats to pass a short-term bill that keeps the government funded through November 17th. It includes $16 billion in disaster aid, but drops funding to Ukraine. With 90 Republicans voting no, McCarthy unable to unite his party. With only hours to spare, he tried selling a plan to keep the government funded in the short term and add border security provisions. But House Republicans still shot that down. McCarthy throwing up his hands.
I don't want to be a part of that team. I want to be a part of a conservative group that wants to get things done.
The question now, will the deal cost McCarthy his speakership? Florida Congressman Matt Gaetz, one of McCarthy's loudest GOP critics, telling our Jonathan Karl he's determined to vote him out.
I am relentless, and I will continue to pursue this objective.
McCarthy, out of options, accepting the challenge.
It's all right if Republicans and Democrats join together to do what is right. If somebody wants to make a motion against me, bring it.
Against all odds, Congress found a way to avoid a government shutdown.
The bill is passed, and without objection, the motion to reconsider is laid on the table.
At the 11th hour, Speaker Kevin McCarthy calling an audible and defying his conservative rebels by putting a 45-day spending bill on the floor.
It is very clear that I tried every possible way, listening to every single person in the conference.
The short-term deal does not include spending cuts or new policies to deal with the border crisis sought by conservatives. The proposal caught Democrats off guard, but ultimately they greenlit the plan by an overwhelming majority.
The American people have won. The extreme MAGA Republicans have lost. It was a victory for the American people.
So as you can see, a lot of FUD going on, a lot of the blame game. Nobody won there when they delay it to raise the debt ceiling. It's just an indictment on the fact we can't pay our bills, ladies and gentlemen. So welcome into everybody tuning in today's Midday Market Report. Wow, already 29 people here. I'm always so blessed that anybody shows up for the Midday Market Report. If you missed any of them in the past, it's labeled out. If you go onto my YouTube channel under playlist, all of the Midday Market Reports, just like all of the silver stacking videos, is under its own category. So you can find that so that you can see all the days past Midday Market Reports as well. They are all scumbags indeed. Crypto Solo Scrooge, welcome in. Thank you for tuning in. Make sure you watch Crypto Solo Scrooge here on YouTube as he's approaching that 700 subscriber goal, or that milestone. Dean, good afternoon. Trading with J-Ride, welcome in. Mr. Extra Sour Cream Taco Supreme, welcome in. John Hall. Sean, good afternoon. And yes, they are all scumbags. So let's start from the top. Dow Jones is under pressure, down about 135.65. We're either putting in a little reversal here, or as you'll see with the pattern formation, we have broken down. We got rejected at 33,906. The only question is this going to make a W reversal and come back up here and get that rejection before coming further down? Because typically when you break down formation, well, actually when something like this, typically when you break these, you'll come back up and then come down if you're going to, but we'll see. Oh, Johnson, welcome in. I greatly appreciate you tuning into the Midday Market Report, as I've come to love and enjoy these more than anybody ever knows. The audience that comes in here is beautiful. Just a beautiful audience. So that's what we're looking at for the Dow, but it's very clear we've broken down now. And if we continue moving, especially if that 33,900 area is rejection like I talked about, that's a big problem. That's a big problem. The next area you'd be looking at, you would have to come all the way down to like 32,572 in order to try to save face, or you might have to come a little farther, because if you come farther than this, it's a problem. And I'll tell you why. This is still kind of like the last stand for the Dow. If you come below this, I'll tell you why it's bad. Mark, welcome in. Chat, good afternoon as well. Sam, Tom, thanks for your hard work. I'm so sorry I've missed your lives and busy working. But I've caught your videos on the rebound. Thank you so much, Sam, and thank you for the $19.99 donation. That is unbelievably generous of you to support my work like that. It is important when everybody who decides to support the work, it does mean a lot to me. Because I don't do paid promotions, advertisements, or sponsorships of any kind. I don't charge for anything. I want you to have a good viewing experience. So thank you all so much. Thank you, Sam. Thank you. Yeah, show Sam some love indeed. So that's what I'm looking at for the Dow. DXY is getting awfully close to that 107 level. And we'll see, we're in this magnificent, monumental rising channel here. It's a massive rising channel. Let me straighten this out. I kind of uncentered this a little bit on accident. But it's massive, ladies and gentlemen. This is a massive rising channel. Should be more like that. That's great. Okay. So that's I just wanted to make sure the support, I moved it over on accident when I first flipped on. We're going into a bull run or a dump. Yeah, but when we get to some of these charts, you're going to see how precious metals is taking a dive. But right now, XRP, when we get to the chart, remember, we have that golden cross in the 4-hourly. So I'm going to do XRP last when I do the market reports. So then it allows everybody to have to sit through this and not just get XRP in the beginning, because I firmly believe this is going to help us get on the right track. 26 likes. Thank you very much. Please make sure to hit that like button, as it will greatly help push this content through the algorithm, and it'll allow more people to come in here and have an active discussion. John, welcome in. So this is what we're looking at. If we continue this rebound, we're looking at about 107.69. Ultimately, on the DXY, it seems to me they're trying to run it up to the top of this formation, and that's up at 109. So we're going to be looking at around 109 for the DXY. So that's what it looks like to me. I'll put this down so it's easier to read. It's about 108.85. So that's where it looks like we're trending up to. So just be prepared for that. Be prepared for that. But yeah, John, we'll look at XRP as well before we leave. I always look at that before we end the midday market report. I know I only try to do 15 minutes on these, but let's face it. It's already been 7.5 minutes. I don't think there's any way I'm going to get this done in 15 minutes today. So it's going to be an extended midday market report. Let's look at crude oil real quick. Down 2.07%. We talked about at the end of last week, we had to have this retracement to see if we were bullish or bearish. We're trying to round the bottom. And I think there's about an 85% chance we come up to the top of this cup and handle. Anybody who was in the live last night, do you understand what this is for Miss Vicky? But this is what we're looking at here. Firmly, we got rejected at the pivot point at 93.73, which is the top of the cup. Now we're trying to put in a bullish handle. To me, a bullish handle here, and I'll show you my reasoning. Around here, the bullish handle could bring you down to about that 85, about 84.75, and then swing up. And the reason I say that is, yes, the cup and handle is right here, the cup, but you have a short-term cup that it wouldn't surprise me if we broke out, make the bullish handle on the smaller cup, and then it allows us the support to break out. That is what I'm looking at. So if it comes down to 84.75, I feel very good about that. I know that's about a $4 drop. There's no guarantee it has to come that far, but I think, like we've been saying, it makes sense. The 4-hour, 200 days down at about 86.50. But if you look at the daily, that is pretty far down here. So is it going to give it time to catch up here? I'm not saying it has to come all the way down there, but it does look like a consolidation is at hand. And that might only be because the U.S. dollar is spiking like it is. But this definitely should come down to at least that 106.50 to see if we're even bullish, though. If we break this handle and it goes bearish, then we got a further correction. We broke the first level already. We've already hit that first level cup and handle. We must pay attention to that. And if you're looking at the short term, so basically it's a 3-tier cup and handle. Ready? So you have the short term that we successfully hit. Midterm successfully hit. Now, the grander ones, it's actually 4 if you look at it. The third one is up a little bit higher here, up at about that 103 area, but then the final handle is up at around 123 that it could finish on this cup. And what could happen with this kind of a formation, and you see this is rounding it right now. So unless you have a bearish handle here, this should continue moving up much higher. And then if it breaks out, look out. So that's what we're looking at there. Just watch that consolidation that's going on now, and then we should be going higher. We should be heading higher. Gold, it deleted off of here. Again, this is the 3rd time today, I kid you not. That gold has been deleted off of here for some reason. I just literally did this before I came on too, because I had to put it back on. But I see it was a waste of time. So we'll get into gold in just a second. I'm very particular with the way I have this set up. All right. Tom, you really think we are going high with crude oil? Are you talking about crude oil, Miss Vicky? If you're talking about with crude, I do. I think that's likely an 85% chance we will go higher after a correction. What's a good buy in the price of gold? Good time to ask that. Gold's down 15 bucks an ounce right now. Yeah, I think crude in time, by the end of the year, we should be seeing over 100 bucks a barrel in the U.S. So we'll see. I think it's got to run up to about 123 in time. And it could go higher if that finishes off. For gold, down under less than 1%, but as we've been talking about with gold, let this fill out. We're in a descending formation that we broke out of. And now the technical target, I thought there was a 95% chance of coming down there, as you can see. And that's at about 1792. So where's a good time to buy gold? My first layer buy would be 1792 if you're buying gold. But I would be looking at silver, honestly. I think silver, and this is the way I look at gold right now. And we just got to let this finish playing out. So that's about all we can say here. I did show you just in case it broke up with that move, which we didn't think it would. But I marked it out at 2029. We thought it was coming down to 1792, and we would be correct in the community. But if it breaks 1792, there is a chance we find ourselves down here towards 1650. It's less of a possibility, but there's a 95% chance we hit that 1792. So that would be the first layer I'd be looking at. But remember, when you're putting your US dollar into gold and silver, gold, or the US dollar is at 106.837. When the US dollar is at 90, where do you think gold and silver is going to be? Don't worry so much about the price, especially with silver. When the gold-silver ratio, I'm sorry, if you're buying gold and you don't have any precious metals, I'm just going to have to stop you right there. This is just me being a friend. The gold-silver ratio, as we predicted last week, was going to skyrocket. And it was going to be approaching 90 to 1 and then possibly further. And now you can see it's broke back into this range to where if it's in here and it pushes out, there is a possibility this can come all the way to 96, but we're looking more towards that 88.5 to 90. So with it up here like this, the gold-silver ratio, I'd be buying silver. And the point is, if you're going to buy an ounce of gold, right now you get 86.2 ounces of silver. You could take that 40 ounces of silver and the ratio is 40 to 1, which it will be in time. It will be. And you could take 40 ounces of that silver you bought, they'll hand you an ounce of gold, and you get to keep 46 ounces of silver. That's a steal. But you can't do this unless the time's right. Right now you're in a time in history where if you understand how to manipulate this, you can do it. Back in, and if you don't believe me, back in June of 2011, the gold-silver ratio was at 31 to 1. It was at 31 to 1. So eventually it's going to get back down there, especially when silver goes to where it's supposed to. Mark my words. So that's why I think it's very important to pay attention to the gold-silver ratio and not so much about the pricing. Because if the gold-silver ratio is favoring you and you're doing it properly, I mean, it's unbelievable what you can do right now. Unbelievable. So that's my philosophy. So that's how I would look at that. That's the gold-silver ratio, gold, and now silver. It's fallen over 4.3% on the day. We talked about how it wasn't fooling us, even though it was on the top side. It still needed to come down, and we said there was a 75% chance that it would break down into this $18 range. The only exception would be a 25% chance it would bounce off this $20.41 to retest the $22 mark, or $22.60. So that's what we're looking at. And right now it's playing out beautifully, like we were thinking. Almost, it's played out perfectly. Let's just put it that way. We had a drastic drop we showed, and that's exactly what's happening. I don't sugarcoat it here. If you're watching the midday market report, you're going to be so far ahead that you're going to have to rethink things twice, because you're going to think I'm fucking with you, and there's no way this guy can be that accurate. And then when you see it, it's not that I'm trying to be accurate. I'm just showing you the daily projections. But I seen an overwhelming likelihood, 75% chance we come down to 18 bucks. It was a 100% chance to me. We came down to here 99.9%, because you can never say 100. But 75% chance I overcalled it, that it could come down to 18 bucks. Just like with gold, there's a 95% chance, in my opinion, it's coming down to 1,792. There's a 70% chance it's coming to 1,725. And there's about a 40% chance we're coming back down to around that 1,650 level. So just pay attention to that. I'll be right back. Okay, so that's what we're looking at for all of this. And then B2 gold, just pay attention to this. As I predicted with B2 gold, I told you not to buy in this formation, even though I know it was tempting. But I have a prediction that we're going to come down to $2.40. And I think that, and once again, I'm going to go on the high side, as I talked about. I don't know why it's not up here still. But there is a 90% probability that B2 gold ends up right here, and a 75% probability B2 gold will end up here at about $2.20. So 90% chance, 75% chance. So you can buy it at $2.40, buy it down to $2.20, and see what happens. But I think this is a opportunity if you understand B2 gold. And my thing is, if you're going to put money into government bonds, and we'll look at government bonds real quick, as the 10-year, which is not on here as well. See how they might take all my stuff off. It makes no sense. I'll be honest. Whoops. So what don't I need on here? Because there's a lot of garbage on here that, well, not garbage. Gala needs to be on the other page. Easy. Easy. Okay. Okay, so the US 10-year. Put this back up here. Because the US 10-year, so basically, if you were to loan them your money, over 10 years, you would get 10%, or 4 point, I'll go over it. I like the 10-year. We'll put it under the DXY. So it's at 4.67, so up 2.12%. Nobody wants this junk. So if you buy a 10-year bond, they'll give you 4.67%. We think it's coming up in time a 50% prop. Where did it go? We had it at that 5 point. Now it looks stupid. It's a 50. Oh, there we go. It's a 50% chance we come up here to that 5.07% before we stop this rally. You didn't need to break down, but that would have been nice if it would have got some consolidation. But it hasn't. It just broke right through. It had a little handle. But this is the 10 years. So, in my opinion, why would you loan the government over 10 years? And in the 2 year, it's over 5.3%. And the 6 month is over 5.25%. So why would you loan them your money over 10 years if you can get more than that for loaning them it for 6 months over interest rate year over year? I argue you find something like B2 Gold, that this is a mining stock that they do go in gold, but they're evolving into silver now, which is a very big thing coming into the future. And right now, B2 Gold, I told everybody, don't buy, even though I love it, because the PE ratio to me when it was at 14, when it was at $3.30, was out of control. A lot of your experts will tell you under 26 is good. For me, B2 Gold, I like to have that PE ratio under 9, but anything under 10 I'll consider. Right now, their PE ratio is still at 12.11. That's price over earnings, which means the shares are priced 12 times over earnings. I don't like that. It needs to come down by a third, that price over earnings. Right now, the dividend's up to 5.54%. It's not enticing enough for me yet. Like I've stated, I will have 6 to 10 grand in here, and I had to sell out before the rebound down because it paid the dividend already, and I showed everybody at $3 and whatever it was where I wanted to come down to, but I collected my dividend and then I had to get out. But I've been very transparent with everybody where to buy this. And I'm gonna have between 6 and 10 grand by the time we finish this move. So I'm likely gonna put 2 grand. I'll see how it looks at 237 and then at 220. I would like to probably have 4 grand in by the time it gets down to 220 area, but that's gonna see if the PE ratio comes down under 10. So I'll keep you all updated. Tom, why would JP Morgan just stop manipulating physical? It's not about stopping manipulating. How's JP Morgan going to manipulate it if the BRICS use it as their back for their standard for their currency? If petro's priced in precious metals, JP Morgan doesn't have a choice. He won't own the majority. The only reason JP Morgan can manipulate the price is because he owns majority, or they own majority. They're not going to own the majority as they continue to sell out. Remember, JP Morgan, as he gets short squeezed out, he takes a lot of shorts out against silver. In 2024, when the BRICS allow their members to sell U.S. government bonds and officially not buy crude with the greenback, JP Morgan's going to eat his shorts, basically, on those shorts. That's just my opinion. Can't always keep things down through the course of history. Remember that. Mitchell, welcome in. Chat, how's Algo looking? I might get to that. I might not. It's already been 22 and a half minutes here. I'm well over my allotment here for the midday market report. Algo would likely be something I cover. That'll be something I cover tonight, probably, in the live. So that's B2 Gold. Everything there I've covered. Total crypto market cap's at 1.081 trillion. We're still up over the 200-day on the daily. Still looking fine. We still need to break up and try to hit this retest up here at about 1.14 if we continue moving up. The only way now to not have that move is if we somehow invalidate this golden cross in the 4-hourly, and that would mean we'd have to come through the 1.046 and then further. So me, it just looks like a retest here, and it's probably going to continue moving up. I told you yesterday when I went live, when they passed that agreement to stall for 45 days, watch out for risk on and cryptos. I think they're going to pump some of this up, and I also said the US dollar was going to start off hot this week. It started out hot. Bitcoin started out hot. Even with the US dollar doing what it's doing, it's over 28K. Yeah, it looks like a retracement possibly, but be careful. Be careful. If this pulls up a little bit farther in the next few hours, this very well could be a hammer candle for Bitcoin. And if it is, right now it's a little bearish. If it turns into a bullish hammer candle, watch out. That could mean that this rally is not close to being over yet. Notice the volume increases, and then on the dump, it's decreased big time. Big time. So you're going to look to see if we can break back over 28,170 before we lose roughly 27,700. That's our goal. We could just be trying to show we're still bullish in that area. So we'll see what happens. Bitcoin dominance up to 50.52% now. No surprise here in this community. No surprise, ladies and gentlemen. We know what's going on. Bitcoin, for the first time all year, has come back across that uptrend. Last time it did this was back on January of 23. It was riding. Then it fell through for the first time. If it continues on, there's going to be another spike up, probably to 52.29% is my opinion. And the probability here, since everybody likes the probabilities, it's a 62% chance. These are my own probabilities that it breaks up and hits this area before it breaks down if it's going to. That's just my own projection. If you don't like it, I'm not a financial advisor, and you are more than welcome to not like it. But you are here, after all, for my opinion. You don't want me to give you some sleazeball's opinion. You want my opinion. If you consider me a sleazeball, that's okay, but it's still my opinion. XRP, this inverted cup and hand, it's the inverted head and shoulders. We talked about the targeted move up to 55 cents. Could cap any upside. Yes, we've hit 55 cents once, but to show support, we needed to come back down here, as we talked about yesterday, and hit this channel, which it looks like we have now. And we have the golden cross. And if we hold this channel at 515, we could break out of this falling channel. Next layer would be to get on top of this 53 cents or 54 cents. And then if you can break that 55 cent, then you might be off to the races to the rising channel that started in June of 2022. And that would be spectacular if we could do it. Once again, let's see if we can get to that chart. So this is the short-term chart, as we know. And then if we look at this chart, this is where we could get to that rising channel from June of 22. It'll load in just a second. I just want to thank everybody who's here. 56 people here still on the Midday Market Report. Do you know how blessed I am to have all of you in here, and 50 likes? This is something I'm very passionate about, and I tried to figure out how to do this so we could do the market together every day, Monday through Friday. And it just came to me, the Midday Market Report. And I will be doing a silver stacking video later on. I don't know if it's going to be today, but sometime this week I'll be doing the 11th installment. If you want to see the first 10, it's in the playlist below. And so are all the Midday Market Reports if you're looking for those. With XRP, if we can break up, first hold that 515, but ultimately hold this 524, then we can work up to the 54 cent as we showed in the short term. Then we might be able to come up to the rising channel up here at about 62.5 cents. That started in June of 22. I'm XRP Future Millionaire. If you got anything out of this Midday Market Report, please make sure to hit that like button. Consider subscribing to the channel and join the over 18,520 plus as we've started to hit a little bit of a stride again. We were stuck for a few days, about a week or two, at about 18,500. Now all of a sudden in the last 2 days we've jumped up to 18,524. I don't want to jinx it, but I really greatly appreciate everybody that has joined. And then if you're looking to trade XRP or your favorite crypto, just look in the video description. There's MEXC for worldwide users. There's FEMX for USA users. Both you can use for futures trading. But MEXC has no spot fees. FEMX in the USA has the lowest spot maker fees for anybody in the USA with no VPN. So just consider all of that. If you want to show me support, you can always send me a YouTube super chat, or you can join Tom's Army. That is always greatly appreciated. Before I leave, though, I wanted to continue with something we've started here together, as you know. We've started with Brad Garlinghouse. Let me go find the video. A lot of stuff pops up, and I haven't shown this. So, I wanted to finish this interview with Brad.
Let me tell you why the law of attraction does not work for most people. Now, to manifest a...
Brad Garlinghouse is the CEO of Ripple. Brad.
So anybody who's been watching this, we're at about 12 minutes now as I've been showing this throughout some of the beginning. So I want to show a few more minutes as we relax together. Thank you all. And I hope you're finding this information of value. This is from Dubai, the FinTech Summit. And there's been a lot of good information. I just didn't want to do a 20-minute straight. So I decided to release it in bits at 2, 3, 4 minutes at a time. This will get us to about 16, 17 minutes unless I finish it all. I may just finish it all now. So I appreciate everybody for watching the Midday Market Report. And if you want to join me with a little bit of cannabis, I would greatly appreciate it. And I will catch you later on a future update or tonight's live.
And I said that, this region has been clearly progressive and leaning into these technologies and taking advantage of those benefits.
What about in the remittance market specifically, which is ripe for disruption? A number of smaller players now entering into that space and really taking advantage of the cross-border flows that we see here in the UAE and other large remittance markets like Saudi Arabia, for example.
Look, I love this question because the World Bank has published that the average remittance cost is 700 basis points for a population that really can least afford it. Now you think about that, 700 basis points, and the goal, they have set at the World Bank level, a goal by 2030 to reach to 300 basis points. Now, on one hand, you would say, well, that's a lot of improvement. On the other hand, 300 basis points, like our goal should be 30 basis points. Like, again, what I struggle with is this is an audience, this is a community that can least afford these costs that is being taxed at a much higher rate. You know, if you or I were to go and invest in another company in another country, we're not paying 700 bips to move that across cross-border. And so I find it a negative reflection of where we are that even our goal is 300 bips. Now, to your point, what is exciting is you see companies building their entire infrastructure on next generation infrastructure that reduces that cost dramatically. There's a company here locally called People, spelled P-Y-P-P-L, that's building their entire next generation remittance on Ripple's technology. They're already doing payouts in, I think, 20 different markets. And it is an opportunity to build at a very low cost, very scalable, and to pass those savings on to customers. And so they're seeing their business grow very well.
So new office in Dubai, what's next?
Well, last year, 2022, as I mentioned, we hired 350 people globally. We opened offices in Dublin and Toronto. As we mentioned earlier, we're expanding our office here and moving offices to more office space. What I think will be next is certainly something Ripple thinks about.
Is the one who asked me about Algo, are you still in here out of curiosity? If you're in here and you paid me the due diligence all the way to the end, I'll go look at Algo real quick before I finish this. Let me know.
We started with enterprise-based cross-border payments. We talk about there being 4 kind of primitive pieces to blockchain-based technologies: liquidity, compliance, liquidity, compliance, custody, and tokenization. And Ripple really aspires to be more than just that kind of liquidity and cross-border payments. I think you can expect that we will expand into some of those other areas, either organically or through acquisition. And I think we'll look at, let's make acquisitions in markets that are friendly to these technologies. On the previous panel,
thank you, Sam. Infamous, I appreciate that. Yeah, silver stacking videos are coming back indeed. All right, I appreciate that. And I know you've been in here, so the fact you paid me the due diligence. Down 3.67% for Algo. We'll cover more Algo tonight during the live, but I just want to show support to the ones who stayed with me this entire live, and we'll finish that video in a sec. Right now, Algo, it does look like it's a little bearish, but remember, we had to retest this on Algo. So as we talked about at the end of last week on Friday in the lives, RC Krugel, good evening. No problem, Johnson. And Jan, thank you so much, love, for the support. I thought we had to come back down here and see if we still had strength at about 0.967. That's why I suspended last week the buy over 10 cents of Algorand. And I said this week, if it came down and retested this, we'd continue the buy. We're at 6,468 Algo right now as a community on our 50 to 75 bucks a week. I think it's been 75 bucks a week as we've been doing it. So we've had a tremendous job done, and we're trying to buy them under 10 cents. So I just didn't want to buy it when it was overinflated because I knew it was going to come down and retest. So we'll see what happens here. So we'll keep a close eye on Algo. We'll pay attention to that. The most important level for Algo right now is to hold this falling channel breakout support at about 9.6. So 9.6 cents. And if you look at this in a wider pattern, it's been a big fall down. And the moment it breaks this, you've got opportunities here. And I'm not saying first layer it's coming up here, but ultimately it would need to come back up there in time to just dramatic drop. So as long as you can stay out of there, we could be starting to rally. So pay attention to that. Hopefully that helps. We will further indulge into that in tonight's live.
On the previous panel, you had representation from the UAE, you had representation from Switzerland. These are countries that are providing the clarity for entrepreneurs to invest, and that allows a company like Ripple that is larger. We have more than $1 billion of US dollars of cash on our balance sheet. We want to deploy that to grow both organically, internally, but also inorganically through acquisition.
Just on some macro notes as well, I wanted to ask you about what's happening, not just in the US, but globally when it comes to cryptocurrencies. Do you think the issues that we've seen in regional banks have perhaps caused a rethink when it comes to how people are viewing cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin and Ether, for example? Obviously, they've rallied through this crisis moment.
It really is interesting to note because I think people would say in a world where there's fear why haven't you seen more of a retrenchment of crypto asset values? The overall market is well off its lows. I'll use Bitcoin as a proxy. I think its low was 16 or 17,000. Now it's at roughly 30, maybe it's 28 today. I think it's a reflection of, the previous panel was talking about how important trust, the word trust came up a lot. And I think, when you start to erode that trust in the US banking system, some of that trust has eroded. I don't mind sharing, Ripple, the company, had hundreds of millions of dollars on deposit at Silicon Valley Bank. I had a moment of very tough Friday.
Listen what he's saying about this. And this tells you all you need to know about how I think that whole thing was a setup. And they bailed out Silicon Valley for a reason. Imagine if they would have bankrupted his holdings. So there's a reason for this. This helps transcend us into the digital era by having the banking system fail. He's a big player in that. You want to be on the side of the nefarious characters. And yes, I love XRP, but a lot of their doings are nefarious for the better good of their own. So we might as well jump on board while we can, while it's cheap.
What's going to happen here? And I think it brings up this, if you don't trust the banking infrastructure, and the U.S. arguably is, at least in the top quartile of banks you should be able to trust, yet here we have two top five bank failures ever in the United States very recently with SVB and
Joshua, thank you so much for the 99-cent donation with the slightly angry face, but that's okay. Thank you so much. Big drop right now.
Republic. If you don't trust your bank, maybe you want to hold assets that you can manage directly. And that's the U.S. Now, Matt, take all of that and apply it to a country like Argentina. In my lifetime, Argentina's peso has been devalued to such a degree that I'm not sure if you had equivalent million USD in Argentinian pesos, do you want to trust that banking system and that government to manage your currency in such a way that you're not going to lose your value? I think I might trust, even with some volatility in crypto, I might trust something different. So I believe what you're seeing in the crypto market is a long-term view that these technologies are here to stay. They solve problems in various ways, and what we're just discussing is around store of value. But you can also use these technologies, as Ripple is, to solve enterprise-based financial services problems to make things far more efficient. And I think that's going to continue to drive demand also.
Just while we have you, can you tell us the story about SVB? Where were you when you found out that the bank was in trouble, and what did you do?
Guys, for a further move up, we always talk about the liquidity needed. That looks like a dragonfly, and I can almost guarantee if this plays out, this could have been that liquidity sweep to wipe out the longs. I'm telling you right now, they do this all the time. So let's just say you're on a 5x or higher, we'll just say in this scenario. It wiped you out. It wiped you out. Likely. Pretty sure that's what just happened. This is your liquidity candle before the move up, so we'll see. We'll see. We'll see how it reacts here. But how funny is it that it went right down to that 508 or 504? And if this plays out as a dragonfly, oh, now it's turning bearish. We'll see here. It very well could have been a liquidity candle. That's what we need to see, because we've had, as we know, the golden cross here in the 4-hourly. This could play out as a liquidity candle. Otherwise, if we come down and break, if you're watching it today and we break that 49 cents especially, that's a big problem. But we're going to see, is this a liquidity candle or is this the start of the move down? The volume's very weak. The volume's very weak. Crashing volume, which seems to lead to the fact they might have liquidated longs real quick here before a further move up. What do you think? In your opinion, do you think they just liquidated longs? Or do you think there's something more to this and it's starting for the reversal back down? First level is to break 49 cents in that scenario.
I was on an airplane and a friend of mine said to me, hey, have you noticed that SVB's stock price?
Zenda says, I'm seeing it right. October, Crypto says, if it's going to be in October, they've got to have a shakeout here. And what a great way to, I'm telling you, it's always so dangerous when you're in long positions or shorts when it's just in the consolidation. That's why I always say try to find the drops if you're going to do something, if you're even going to attempt it. I really feel like this was a liquidity sweep for the longs. I do. I can't help the way I feel. It's also the reason I don't like leverage.